Hi, I'm Cindy Cloward with Riley Blake Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to create beautiful placemats out of fabric. Placemats add a special touch to any holiday event or everyday celebration. So we have partnered with Hester Cook to bring you monthly placemats for 12 months, and we're starting off with our Thanksgiving placemats that arrive this month. So you can see how beautiful they look. Now, Hester Cook is known for making everything from gorgeous chandeliers down to paper placemats that you can rip off and decorate your table. Their designs are fantastic, and they have allowed us for the first time ever to bring their beautiful designs to fabric. So this is what the Thanksgiving placemats look like. So let me move this to a side and let's get started on creating these placemats. So the first thing you're going to want to do is download the free pattern from the Riley Blake Designs website that tells you 3 different ways you can use your placemat panels to create your beautiful placemats. So here's the pattern, and the easiest one to make is just simply cutting out your panel, adding a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the entire panel, choosing a coordinating fabric that goes with the panel. Each of the months has a beautiful coordinating fabric, and you can use it for backing or border. We also have these Hester Cook ginghams that go with every collection, all 12 months. And you can see for the Santa, we got the Santa coordinates. For the Celebrate, we have nice coordinates. So choose a coordinate, and then it tells you in the pattern to use a fusible interfacing. It can be lightweight. I really like one-sided. You don't want double-sided fusible interfacing. Choose a one-sided fusible interfacing. It can be lightweight. I really like the fleece. So you're gonna adhere it to the top piece, your panel piece. Get a coordinating fabric and put them right sides together. And with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're going to sew all the way around your placemat, leaving a 2.5 inch opening to turn inside out. Then this is what it looks like. I've got the fusible interfacing on that one side. Then you're going to clip your corners. Clip it close to your threads, but not too close. And you are going to turn this inside out. I always grab it from the opposite side. You can, what do we call it? Birthing our project. Oh, I popped open my stitches a little bit. Okay. Push out your corners. So I'm going to grab a point turner or a turning tool to pop out my corners. Okay, it's looking good. Now let's just take it to our pressing station. I'm going to move these out of the way. I got some binding there. And as I push out my seams, this is when I kind of like to press the same time. It's helpful to do. There we go. Likes to snag the top of that fleece, but it's just fine if it grabs onto it. It's not going to do anything to that fleece. Okay, and then the last edge, you're going to just tuck that seam underneath and give it a good press. Okay, now let's take it to the machine and top stitch this placemat, and then that'll close that opening. I'm going to pivot around my corners. Instead of back stitching, I like to just go over my stitches where I started a few times. Okay. That is finished. Isn't that a bright and fun placemat? That is good to go. That is the first method that it talks about on our monthly placemats of how to finish your placemats. Okay, the second method is this. Now these next two methods both require you to bind your placemats. It makes a more elegant finish. So this is a bound placemat. But this method makes it really easy. If you're a long arm quilter or you like to quilt on your domestic machine, this makes a really easy way to finish your placemats in no time at all. So this is the whole cloth of the placemats. This says Celebrate and has some fun gold on it. And then it's been sandwiched with batting in the middle and a coordinating backing. So that has already been quilted. And so all we have to do now is cut out our placemats and put binding on. So let me show you how you're going to do that. Because, let me get my rotary cutter. Let's hide it under there. Here we are. Because you're going to want to have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you're going to line it up like this. And you know, it can shift a little bit, so just line up a 1/4 inch as best you can. And there should be a 1/2 inch between each placemat, so you should have room if you're cutting right down the center for a 1/4 inch on each side. Now it's probably best to start right in the middle. I didn't start right in the middle, but I'm going to now. Let's line that up. I'm going to start down here. Measure twice, cut once, right? There's a little bit more of a border in the center. It's like about 1 inch between the placemats. Okay, so we'll put those 3 to the side. I'll just show you how I cut out one. And there we go. So that's how you would cut out each of the placemats. Let me put that to the side. And then you would create your binding. We have a great binding tutorial, a great binding board of how to create all your binding. So go ahead, make all your binding at once. We've got nice tools that you can keep it all ready to go when you're ready to make your placemats. Now, depending on how thick of binding you want or how you like to bind your projects, this is 2 1/4, but I have to say, no, this is 2 1/2, but I have to say my favorite bindings are just 2 inches. They're just super tricky to sew on. So if you're new to binding your projects and you need a little wiggle room, stick with a 2 1/2 inch binding or at least 2 1/4. And like I said, this would be It's in our binding tutorial. I would sew that on, flip it over, and then finish it off by sewing all the way around all 4 sides. And you've got this beautiful placemat. Again, it's the standard size of placemats. It's a good size, but if you want it a little larger, this is like our Give Thanks placemat. This is a nice size if you like to decorate your table with chargers underneath your plates. If you just want a larger size placemat, you have big plates, then you're gonna want to do this method. This is the 3rd method, and it's putting on a border around the placemat panel. So I just wanted to show you. It says they're so cute. Here's all the Thanksgiving placemats. And I chose to use the coordinating ginghams. And I like a scrappy looking table, so I did different prints on the back. And then I did 2 different ginghams on the front. So these are the coordinating prints and the ginghams. I'm gonna move those to the side, and we are gonna work on our Christmas placemat. We're gonna add a border. I'm gonna show you how easy it is to make. So I'm pulling out the panel, and just like we did on that Celebrate panel that had already been quilted, we need to cut this apart. So I'm gonna get on my glasses. And like I mentioned, it's best to cut the placemats in the middle first. Just line it up and just adjust it. So you got a 1/4 inch seam allowance. On the side of your placemats. Okay, so here we go. Here's our Merry and Bright. And now to choose the coordinating border fabric. You could certainly do Adorable Santas. Sometimes I just like to audition. And you have 3 colorways to choose from. Any of them would be a good choice. But I think I'm gonna go with ginghams. Now ginghams, our ginghams are not woven, they're printed. So if you're cutting on grain, they might need to be adjusted a little bit so they don't look wonky or crooked at all. So just try and cut them on the gingham lines. So in the instructions, it tells you to cut for each panel. You're gonna need 2 11.5 by 2.5 inch strips. And we're gonna sew those on both sides. So let's take it to the machine and sew. Okay, so I sewed both sides on here. And I do recommend when you're sewing this to sew it on this side of the fabric so you can see exactly where that 1/4 inch is. And if it's a little more generous, just sew on the white part of this particular print so you're not going to see any of the green when you open that up. So let's take it to the machine or to our pressing station and open that up. I mean, this is probably my favorite placemat, making them just grow a little bit bigger and having that added outside border. It's like a little mini quilt. It's so cute. Okay, so that gingham looks great. Now we're gonna put the top and bottom part of the gingham on. And I think I might have cut these a little bit big. Or if you take a bigger seam allowance, they're gonna be a little bit bigger. So not a problem. If you wanna just pull it across, and I'm gonna cheat. Really, you should measure it. And then cut your top and bottom piece to measure to your print, but I'm being a little bit lazy. And I'm just going to pin it on and then trim it after. And again, I'm going to take it to my machine, start my stitching here, but I'm going to sew inside of that line, and I can easily see that when I sew on this side of the fabric. Oops. Okay, we've got our two top and bottom borders sewn on, so I'm going to give them a good press before I trim them, because I want to open it up before I trim it out. Oh, I love the gingham with this. It does look merry and bright, doesn't it? Okay, our placemat is nearly, the top is nearly finished. Okay, that is good to go. So the placemat top is good to go. You just need to choose a coordinating fabric. This would look fabulous on the back, be absolutely adorable. And if you're finishing it on your domestic machine, you just cut it out the same size as your top placemat and sandwich it with batting, and you can sew it like this on this. But if you're sending it to a long arm quilter, check with your long arm quilter, because many times they would like your backing fabric to be larger than your top fabric. And it is like a little mini quilt. So really you could choose one backing and then put all these pieces on, and they could maybe quilt it all at once. I don't know, check with your long arm quilter. But you can see what's left after it's been quilted is you just choose your binding. Like I mentioned, I love a tight binding, so this is a 2-inch binding, and I always cut gingham on the bias. It looks much better on the bias, so make sure your gingham is cut on the bias, and then you just finish it. We have a good tutorial on finishing your pieces by binding, and your placemats are done. And it makes a beautiful way to celebrate the holidays with fabric that's reusable for years to come. And it's just a really fun way to decorate for the holidays.